you so much for joining us. You are watching KUHS The Stream, and this is the Weekend Boost. I am your host, Paul Lane, and the author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. Guys, if you are experiencing someone who is ill and you are taking care of them, this is a great guide to help you to find better ways to address and help yourself to become less stressful in your situation. It's available if you want to reach out to me at the station, or you can reach out to me at info@paullane.net. I'd be happy to get a signed autographed book out to you. Okay, as you know, I always like to promote CALMA, the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors, and I am promoting and always promote the anthology Ramas y Raíces, Branches and Roots. It's an anthology of really exciting authors and short stories, poems, essays. Really a great book. It's $20. If you'd like to get this book, please reach out to me. I would love to get a book of one of these copies in your hands. Now guys, before we start the show today, I have some things I want to share with you. I call it required reading. With the things that have been going on politically in America, there's a lot of people that are troubled. There's a lot of people that are worried. There's a lot of people that really want to educate themselves and make themselves more aware and prepared for what's going to happen in the months and years to come. And we're in for some changes. I have a strong feeling. So I'm going to recommend 3 books. The first one is The New Jim Crow. If you're familiar with Jim Crow, I thought Jim Crow was a person. Jim Crow was actually a pejorative or an offensive term that was used to explain how they treated black people in the South. The New Jim Crow explains exactly what's happened over the last 100 years and how Jim Crow is alive and well in the United States of America today in 2024 and will be next year. You know, I love my country, but I want to be aware. I want to be educated, and this book by Vincent Bevins is called The Jakarta Method. The Jakarta Method starts in 1947. It talks about the McCarthy era and when they started scaring everybody about the communism scare and how they used that tactic to kill over 1 million people in Jakarta. They took that, cut and pasted it, and did it in the United States, or actually in South America. They overthrew 12 governments. Our government did it. Here's the explanation of it. These are CIA declassified documents, and this book is a very good read. Outstanding read. Educate yourself, man. You got a lot to know and a lot to learn. And you got a lot to be aware of in the next 5 years to come. The last one, A People's History of the United States. You know, it's very hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And this book by Howard Zinn is a really informative book. This book is a book that will open your eyes in so many ways. You will really get details on things you never dreamed about in our own country. But this is really a required reading. I call these 3 books required reading. If you'd like to get a list of those books, reach out to me. I'll be happy to share them with you. But you need to read these books. They're really important right now in this day and age. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oh, I also want to say, if those of you who, if you have someone who is ill, someone who is dealing with any illness and pain, broken bones, I'm really starting to get a lot more people come to me with injuries that I'm able to help them with, and the technologies that I'm using and the information that I've gathered is really useful and really helpful in a lot of ways to a lot of people. My guest, Brigitte Mars, has been a guest before, one of my favorite authors. If you are interested in making your life better, if you're interested in finding out how you can improve your life herbally without synthetic medications, Brigitte Mars is actually probably one of the foremost authorities on the topic of herbal medicine that I've ever known in my life, and someone who has knowledge that surpasses anyone that I've ever met. I mean that. Before we talk about the book we're going to be talking about today, I want to talk about this one. We had Brigitte on a few months back, and she wrote this Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health. I'm telling you, holistic methods and techniques for happy and a healthy mind. I cannot promote this book enough. I'm telling you, you can have this as a reference on your desk. If you are sad, if you're depressed, if you're unhappy, if you're confused, if you're troubled, I love having the opportunity to have natural methods to make myself and others feel better. I've had this book for probably 3 months now, and I've already helped out someone with Parkinson's disease. I have someone with bipolar disorder that we're going to be talking to next week. And All I'm doing is using this as a reference, and it's a perfect guide, and it's easy to follow, great, easy read, fun reading, and you got to have this book on your bookshelf and in your medicine cabinet. This is a must-have, must-have. Brigitte Mars. Brigitte, I contacted Brigitte a couple months ago, and I asked her to come back on the show because she's just been such an exciting guest. And she told me about this latest book that she has, and it's called The Sexual Herbal Prescriptions for Enhancing Love and Passion. And I got to tell you, man, I read this book and I've read through it, and I mean, it's such an easy book that you can thumb through it and open to any page and get useful information. I don't care if it's about erectile dysfunction, or if it's kissing your wife, or if it's just premature ejaculation, whatever the case may be. Many years ago I came across a book. It was called The Sensuous Man, and it was groundbreaking. It was a world changer, and I mean, this is a book that's on that level. Really, really. Brigitte, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you so much, Paul. So delighted and honored that you like my books.
Yes, absolutely. So how many books is it that you've written now, Brigitte?
18.
18. So this is not just a beginning author, guys. This is someone that you can take note in, and you can really, really trust that the information you get from her books is useful, it's applicable, and it's easy to follow. Brigitte,
thank you.
Tell me a little bit about how did you come about writing this book?
Well, The Sexual Herbal I wrote because, very often people think, well, I know all about sex. I've been sexually active since I was such and such an age, or I've had multiple level lovers. But yet, really, it's important. Just like if we want to excel at something, we want to be a good doctor, we want to be a good teacher, we want to be a good lawyer, we're going to continue our education. And I was going to tantric classes. Tantra is the art of weaving your lives together. And I was married, and we were learning the art of Tantra, how to enhance lovemaking. And I thought, this is a great idea. My husband and I should say my husband, and I are, we're going to continue learning about the art of sexuality. And I realized that a lot of people, they have issues, they have health conditions that maybe impair their ability to really make love making as easy and wonderful as it could be, because we've had trauma, fear of pregnancy, erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, being on medication that maybe inhibits orgasm. And I thought someone needs to address some of these underlying things that are going on, low libido. And so I wanted to do a deep dive into the health of sexuality, rather than assuming that everyone's coming to these classes and everything works perfectly and there's never been any trauma or any abortions or physical concerns like erectile dysfunction or high blood pressure. So let's get to the health of it, and then we can get on with the lovemaking.
Yes, yes. Because you lay that groundwork, and everything else is much more pleasurable and much more, enjoyable. And I think that sex for me is a very intimate thing, and it's something that I really treasure. And I didn't always feel that way about it. I guess as I've gotten older in my life, I've really appreciated it as a sacred part of my life. And I really try to express that to people when I talk about life and about things in general, because most people think about sex as just a pleasure and just an alleviation of pressure, or whatever whatever they perceive it as. But it's so much more than that. I've realized at this point in my life.
Well, and the idea too is, my partner likes to say, there's hundreds of ways of making love.
Yes.
Whether it be massaging, and the word tantra means weaving your lives together. And so the book, The Sexual Herbal, also talks about things like keeping your love alive, the fine art of flirting and finding a mate, because some people don't really have a partner, or how do we go to another level and bring about deeper commitment? How can we heal from anger? How can we heal from infidelity? How can we promote more honesty and integrity in relationships, as well as As you were saying, Paul, not only is sexuality intimate, but it's actually good for our health. It activates our hormones. Of course, it can relieve stress, but it's good for our back. It's good for improving our nervous system, our brain health. So there are a lot of health benefits. And of course, for many people, it just becomes another stress, another thing to do, or concern, or doubt. So the sexual herbal also looks at some of the emotional things like lack of self-esteem, or feeling that we are always going to fail. And so it's so beautiful to realize that sexuality is part of our overall health. And if something else is out of balance, like poor digestion, or our belly's too big to really, be comfortable being sexual, or we have pain in our bodies, or we're so stressed out because of the problems of the day, how are we going to be able to be fully present making love when we're worried about the bills and the kids and the plumbing and all the worldly problems? So I wanted to bring the aspect that a healthy relationship can be a wonderful healing aspect, that a partner on the path is really a blessing. And rather than it be another thing we have to do, how can we honor this preciousness? But also realizing that some of us, probably all of us at some time, need a little help, a little encouragement. And I even have a chapter on healing the spirit from a broken heart, which many of us, whether it be through divorce or loss or infidelity, like how can we heal and move on? And so I really covered so many things, as well as the topics you mentioned: premature ejaculation, vaginal dryness, low libido. And I do think that one of the really big issues is that people are exhausted, and they wait to make love at the end of the day after they've worked hard all day. They're sore in their body. Maybe they didn't have any time for self-care, and we're expected to go to bed and get it on, and everyone looks good and feels great. And it's just not that way. And so I really have this idea that, finding a partner who brings out the best in you, who wants to eat healthfully, who wants to, exercise or do yoga or trade massages. How can we synchronize our lives so that we really can enjoy this bliss of a partner who's there for us?
Man, that makes perfect sense. I think that unison has so many meanings. Synchronicity. It's so critical. I loved one part in the book where you said, as seniors, you tend to have better sexual enjoyment in the mornings. And so it's really, it makes perfect sense. Because at the end of the day, most people are stressed out. They're exhausted. They've had a rough day, and I think there's so many distractions at the end of the day for so many people that it's very hard to get that focus that you really do need when you're in the middle of an intimate moment. I think that's really critical.
And so a quote I use in the book is, sexual energy is extra energy. So if we're depleted, if we are stressed out, we've been watching the news, we've got problems with our kids, with our finances, all these things kind of compound it. And so the idea that we're going to nurture and polish, and again, for some people, if you don't have to be somewhere, of course, because that's a stress, making love in the morning, if you have to be somewhere in an hour, that creates a time limit. Or if you've already fallen asleep in front of the TV, and now you're going to crawl up the stairs and go to bed and expect to have great lovemaking. So sometimes we have to create dates, and it might be like, I also think as we get older, it might be more about quality rather than quantity. We don't have to live up to any standard of any magazine, but the idea that again, there's so many things we can do to honor: trading a hand massage, a foot massage, a back rub, soaking in the hot tub together, praying together, meditating together, doing yoga together, and also finding the right partner's a really important thing. Someone who can meet you on every level. I would always tell my daughters, look for someone who loves you as much as you love them, at the same time.
Oh, man.
And also look for someone who brings out the best in you, because very often in our relationships it ends up being a continuation of some of the unhealthy dynamics of, growing up where, there's a lot of complaining and shaming and blaming and, so how can we make this the sweet part of our life that brings us joy and helps us to be out in the world and do better because we're nourished? It's a lot easier to be a good parent or a good employee when things are going well at home.
Yeah, it's balance. I really believe that when you have that kind of balance and you have, I saw a model one time. There were 6 areas of life. And there was social, there was education, there was work, there was physical and health, spiritual, and the last one evades me. But what I found was when you can balance out your life in different areas, particularly physically, you tend to be more balanced. And when I say balanced, I mean you're able to make better, clear decisions. You feel better health-wise. You are emotionally in a place where you're able to go and, for lack of a better word, perform. Because you feel good inside, and you feel that you maybe worthy. I don't know the word, but it's so important.
So important. And even a thing like eating a lot before bed, like, okay, it's 10 o'clock and you think you're gonna down a pint of ice cream or something like that. That's only going to elevate your blood sugar, load you up with, fat and sugar, and it's going to satisfy your hunger. So I think that saving a little bit of that hunger for your beloved, and it might be that you just have to plan things like, hey darling, it's a full moon tonight. We're going to put clean sheets on the bed. We're going to go to bed clean. Because I think sometimes we're very inhibited, like, oh, don't go there. I didn't wash today or something, or I didn't brush my teeth.
Yes.
So when we present ourselves in a way with a clean body, and I'm really big on, getting ready for the next day the night before, because very often those things get in the way, like, oh, I'm so stressed. What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? I need to put things together. So the idea that you are on a path with your partner. And one thing I found that works really well is synchronizing our calendars. So rather than it being a great mystery, where are they going to be? Very often at tea time, you kind of say, well, I'm not going to be home for dinner this night, or should we, it's going to be a full moon. Would it be possible to go to bed earlier, like 8 or 9, and not be attached? Did we have an orgasm? Did we have intercourse? It might just be that we went and we snuggled and we traded.
Oh man, yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and another thing sometimes, because life is so expensive, whether we go out to dinner or go out to a movie, like if you're the social coordinator, do your research and read the reviews so that you don't go and spend all this money on something that's making you feel depraved and depressed. Because where we put our consciousness, it's like, who wants to go and make love after seeing a movie with like horrible violence and depression? And so it's really an art of how can we protect this preciousness of a relationship. And we know, another thing, I have all these like little words of wisdom sprinkled through the book, like,
yes, you do.
Praise in public, blame in private.
Yes, I love
praise
that.
in public. Hang out with people that are in positive relationships. So if not that you don't want to be there for your friends that are going through a separation or a divorce or having a hard time, but also have some role models that you spend time with of happy, healthy relationships, because
yes,
that can also inspire you. So those are some important factors, and to really make your relationship a priority. That you give it honor, that it, even though our work and our kids and the house and all those things are important too, but to also really collaborate and find ways to harmonize. And what a gift.
absolutely.
Consider it a gift and a treasure from the universe, something worth protecting and making sacred and beautiful.
Oh man, I got to tell you, as you were talking, I was thinking about at night, every night when my wife and I go to bed, we cuddle, and I mean, I go and I roll over and I put my legs over her and I put my legs under her legs, and we just hold each other. And we've gotten in the habit of doing 20-second hugs throughout the day. And if you don't do that, guys, if you don't do that with your lover, you don't know what you're missing. I mean, it completely releases cholesterol. I mean, what is it? Cortisol from your body. And that's a stressful thing, and when you can release that cortisol, you're going to be a lot more relaxed when you get to bed. You're going to sleep better. You're going to sleep deeper. And that deep sleep that's the restorative sleep. Making love, I mean, for me, I've always believed that, you know what? A touch of the hand could be making love. I love nothing more than to go to bed and just put my hand on my wife's face and just caress it. And I put it around the back of her neck, and I just touch it. I just hold her. And it's more intimate than an orgasm. It's literally saying I love you without words.
That's so beautiful, and I'm so on board with that. Again, there's hundreds of ways of making love, and Tantra means weaving your lives together. So things like, let's grow a garden together, let's make a meal together, let's plan a party, let's honor each other. How can I lift you up and support you in your endeavors? And as you were saying, Paul, which is so beautiful, like, I just love to cuddle and snuggle. That stimulates the hormone oxytocin.
Yes.
So unfortunately, people go to bed all stressed out, and then they do this thing like, let's jump for the genitals. And you're kind of like, but my back hurts and my head is full of thoughts.
Yes.
So how can we bring that state of relaxation to each other? And again, just keep in mind, let go of any attachment of how it has to be, because there are so many ways that we can give love to each other that are healing and nurturing. And I'm really into, wouldn't it be nice if you had a partner who wants to support healthy eating, who wants to support cleanliness, because resentment builds up when we leave a mess for someone else to clean up. How can we praise each other and give gratitude? I mean, foreplay doesn't just happen in the bed. Foreplay happens in the morning when you give gratitude, and you're like, I'm going to help you with your chores. What do you need to get through the day? How can I support you? All of that is part of foreplay. And this thing about jumping for the genitals, that can be like a shock to your nervous system. People are kinder to, warm up their cars or something. I hear that's a thing. Then like, you gotta find ways to connect. Yep. And it could be the hand holding, the touching. And don't just save that affection for just going to bed. It is something, that heart-to-heart contact. And if you're a different size, one person can stand on the stairs. Gratitude throughout the day.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for that beautiful breakfast. Thank you for helping me with those things. Thank you for helping with the kids and helping them with their homework. Whatever it is, it's almost like when you give gratitude, you get more of that positive behavior. But if you focus on like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, it's almost like you bring about more resentment,
yes,
and retaliation. And so how can we promote feeling good with each other? And it's a work in progress. But the reason I wrote the book really is to encourage. I wanted to learn more about how to how can we nurture this precious gift of a partner, and how can we keep it alive, and how can we get through the hard times, because sometimes it doesn't work out despite all that. And as I said, I was married for 38 years, which is a pretty long run. And my husband had a wandering eye and wandered off. It didn't work out for him, but I found love again. And because I'm, even older, I just really value how important it is, and I'm still willing to learn. And so what a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love that you keep going back to the topic of gratitude, because I talk about gratitude with so many of my guests, and I I am of the firm belief that gratitude is the center of satisfaction in life, contentment, fulfillment. I mean, when you close a day out by saying, you know, I'm so grateful for that omelet I had that you made me this morning. It was so wonderful to go for that walk. You know, it was so cool to see that hawk in the tree, or, you know, I mean, it's like when you start finding things to be grateful for, all of these other things start coming forward, you know, that you never even saw before. Oh my goodness, you know, you folded my socks for me, or whatever. I mean, it could be as minimal as, you know, you wiped up the counter. That was such a great thing for me, you know, and it really counts.
It's true, and very often we get into taking people for granted, and you know, very often, like, you know, if you're making meals for someone, if you're cleaning up, if you're, I mean, things that need to be done every day just to keep a household together,
Oh yeah.
to make it a pleasant place to be, it takes a lot of work, and very often it becomes just expected of you, and then it just builds resentment. Like, I had to work, I had to bathe the baby, I had to help with the homework, I had to dishes, laundry. It's immense.
Yep.
And so we're really, and again, roles are shape shifting in a way that sometimes the woman might be more of the breadwinner, and men can be more present as parents, but we both can learn to make food, and we can both support each other. And so let go of the attachment of who has to do what. Let's just figure out how we can help each other and support each other and be grateful for what each other does, because gratitude really keeps it going. And one thing that I often tell my clients that I see for physical and mental health conditions is make a list of 100 things you're grateful for, that you feel are blessings in your life, because it's really easy to think about you know, the few things that aren't right, but yet, did you eat today? Do you have hot water coming out of the tap? That one always gets me, because I bathed in an icy cold river for 2.5 years. Like, oh my God, hot water comes out of the tap. I'm so grateful. That relaxes me so much. I'm grateful to have, you know, wonderful clothes to wear. I'm grateful that our home has heat. And how did we get there? So with our partner on the path, coordinating our schedules, showing appreciation, finding ways to lift each other up, and finding, you know, the right person, but also knowing that there's a spark of divinity within everyone.
Yes.
And so if we foster that and nurture that, because I think very often we choose relationships based on wage earning potential, sexuality, and there needs to be even more than that.
So much more. Yeah. You know, I have to say that I've been so fortunate with my wife, because we, you know, we coordinate, we collaborate, we unify. I just, you know, when I met her, I told her, look, I'm not looking for anyone to do my dishes or cook my meals or pay my car payment or my house payment. I'm not looking for anyone to do my laundry. I want a mate. I want a partner. I want an equal. You know, I think that so many times when we go into the bedroom, we have, like you say, all that burden, all that heaviness on us, and when we look at our mate, our partner as something less than, we lose out. And in the end, they may come out looking satisfied, but in the end, they're resentful and they're not fulfilled. And you know, I mean, man, I'm telling you, you got to start looking at your spouse or your mate or your partner as an equal. I don't believe in male superiority. I don't believe in it. I don't buy it. No, I got off track there.
Well, you've got a lucky partner. And you know, I also, people are always asking, like, how can I enhance my libido? And we want to realize that libido is kind of like the tides. There's going to be times in life where there's high tide and low tide, and high tide and low tide, and that our priorities might really shift. Like I said, it may become more about quality rather than quantity. But a lot of times we sabotage our libido because we're sabotaging our health by eating too much junk food. And you know, one thing, there's this theory that, like, well, we have to eat a lot of red meat, but if we overdo saturated fats, that can impair circulation. And in order for men to have erections, blood needs to be able to get to the genitals. For women to be able to be more orgasmic, blood needs to be able to flow. So again, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be vegetarian, but we want to support our libido by choosing healthy foods. And so things like nuts and seeds, avocados, eating colorful fresh fruits and vegetables, keeping our arteries clean because we have good elimination and we're drinking enough water. And we need to be sensitive too, like if our partner's turned off by the fact that we drink too much, or that we're always we're always we smell like tobacco or something, like it might not be worth it to persist in those habits if that's really a turnoff to our partner. Maybe they want someone to be on the same wavelength. So if and again, it doesn't mean it has to be 100%, but we want to be sensitive to what the predilections are of our beloved.
Yeah.
And so good nutrition is key. And in Asian medicine, libido has a lot to do with the strength of our kidneys, because our kidneys govern our teeth, our bones, our sense of hearing, and libido. And a really easy thing to do is to consume more black colored foods, because the black colored foods are high in minerals. So things like chia seeds, black rice, black beans, black olives. And when we offer food to our beloved, it's also an offering. They used to say in the 50s, the way to a man's heart is through their stomach. But really, I feel like I put love into the food that I present,
yeah.
and sometimes my partner does that. I love to decorate my food with edible flowers, because flowers are the sex organs of plants. And so if we're building health, not eating junk that's polluting our bodies, polluting our temple, then what an opportunity to say, wow, hey, I want you to be healthy. I want you to feel good. I want to feel good. Let's keep this going, because long term, as being sick and always being on medication can affect everything. And so let's strive for good health together and do our best. And of course, things happen, accidents happen, illness can happen despite all of it, but we're going to do our best. When we make those vows for richer or poor, sickness and whatever, like, well, let's try to be rich and let's try to be healthy, so that it becomes a fun journey as much as we possibly can.
Absolutely, absolutely. I personally believe that when you are in a relationship, you need to redefine wealth. In life, you need to, the definition that we typically see traditionally as wealth is a lot of money, and a lot of financial security. Well, financial security is wonderful, but wealth is so much more than that. I used to do motivational speaking in the schools, and I would talk about wealth, and I would throw my wallet on the floor and say, there's no wealth in there. It could be packed with $100 bills, but there's no wealth in there. Your wealth is going to come when you look at the person in the mirror and you say, I'm okay. I've done okay. I've been fair with other people. I've helped people. I've done something with my life to make it valuable. And that value comes back to you, but it exudes from you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, there's all kinds of wealth. There's spiritual wealth. There's the wealth of having a home. So again, that goes back to appreciating all the things that we have. And if there's something that we lack, like, how can we, bring that together? I also wanted to mention that, very often people think that the only way to enhance their libido is by taking pharmaceutical drugs, which could also have health ramifications. I remember when Viagra first came out, I wonder how long it's going to take before people start having health problems from this. And so it wasn't long. I think that, like, in the first month there were 16 heart attacks. So there are herbs that have been used by millions of people for thousands of years. And as a real simple thing is, a lot of the culinary herbs are sexually invigorating. Cinnamon, ginger, garlic.
Yeah.
I remember as a teen, I read the Kama Sutra, because I went to an all-girls school and I didn't really know anything about sex at all. And I thought, I'll read the Kama Sutra, and
That's a good start.
I learned about foods, and my mom would kind of complain, like, oh, your father and I only make love when we go on vacation. And I said, Mom, you only go on vacation like once a year. Let me make the food while I'm home on vacation. So I started experimenting, cinnamon baked apples, and cinnamon French toast, and cinnamon chai tea. And my mom like winked at me and said, "It's working, it's working." So that inspired me, like, keep learning about all these medicinal plants.
Yeah.
And some of them are already in your kitchen, but spices, they spice up your senses because
Wow.
the greatest sex organ is really the brain.
Absolutely.
And so when things taste good, when things look beautiful, when things smell good, now you're really connecting. It's not just about, below the waist. It's really our entire being.
Absolutely.
To activate. And then, there's other herbs. There's a South American herb, maca, which is in the same family as rutabaga and turnip, that has long been used. There's damiana. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that alcohol is going to be the fuel for libido, but Shakespeare said, "Alcohol provoketh desire, but taketh away performance." So it's really easy to overdo something like that. And one thing I would tell my daughters, I have 2 grown daughters and 3 teenage grandchildren, but I would say, never make a decision to become intimate with someone for the first time while you're on anything. Because once you kind of cross that boundary, like, okay, now we're lovers, you end up sometimes being delusional that it's more important than it really is, and maybe that shouldn't have been a smart thing to do. So it's one thing if you're already partners, but to make that decision, like, no, we're going to become lovers tonight, but we've had too much to drink or smoke, or we're on something. You want to be really in your right mind, and you want to really choose wisely, because it takes on a lot of energy. Next thing you know, your lives are woven together, and it might not really be a good match. So be careful where you start.
Oh man, that's good advice. That's good advice. I really like that, in the beginning of the book you start talking about aphrodisiacs, and there are so many foods that were listed as aphrodisiacs. I went home, I went and made a big old salad after I read that. I put avocados and carrots and I mean, it was like, I really never looked at food as a stimulant, as something that would enhance. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, I put cucumbers and carrots and and tomatoes, and I fluffed it all up, and it was like, oh man, I looked at my food in a new light. I mean it. It was just like, wow, I never thought of an avocado as being a sexual thing, and yet it's very, it's a very sexual thing. It's aguacate. It was a testicle.
Yes, and avocados contain lecithin,
Yes.
which is a natural component in our sexual fluids. And so, fresh fruits and vegetables, color, including a lot of color, making the food beautiful, whole foods, things that are processed, microwaved, fried foods, chips. These are all things that undermine our health. Overdoing sugar. But, the good news is chocolate could also be considered an aphrodisiac. Chocolate contains a compound called phenylethylamine that is produced by our bodies when we're in love, especially after an orgasm. So chocolate, a little bit, especially dark chocolate, it causes a rush of blood to the heart. But I also think that a lot of times people persist in eating things that they're allergic to, that might cause inflammation in their body. And it's hard to really, get down and enjoy making love if your stomach hurts, if your head hurts, your joints hurt. So, what can you do so that you're in good health, so that you can offer your being to your beloved in your best possible state?
Yes, yes. And earlier I said the word performance, and I use that reluctantly, because it's not a performance that you're looking for. It's an experience. It's an intimacy. It's a connection that I don't know, so many times, and my own self included, in my younger days, I never thought of sex as an intimate act. It was always, primal, and I guess that's part of the youth in me, when I was a young man. But I don't know, as I've gotten older, it's taken I've taken a new perspective on it, and it feels like I truly see it as a sacred act. I mean it, and it's, when you look at the topics in this book, I mean, you talk about Chinese patent medicines, and there were so many. It's like, I did not know there were this many Chinese medicines out there. So I mean, it was like, wow, it was just an eye opener. I was just impressed and amazed at how many tools we have at our disposal that we really just need to go out and seek,
Well, just like in all my books, I'm wanting to empower people to take some responsibility rather than, doctor, my libido's low, or I'm unable to orgasm, or I'm having a hard time getting erections. Here's a drug. Well, before you go there might be lifestyle things, there might be food, there might be herbs, there might be supplements, there might be patent medicines. So rather than thinking you have to reinvent the wheel, health food stores are going to have herbal combinations that will have maca and saw palmetto berries, or things already put together so that all you really need to do is have a tea, have a supplement, take an herbal tincture. So it's really put together. It's not like you've got to I can't, how do I fathom this vast array of plant medicines? You go to the natural food store or the herbal pharmacy and you say, is there anything that could help my libido? And of course, men as they get older, it does seem a lot, because very often men have prostatic inflammation, frequent urination. Men and women might have problems with sleep. So there's all this stress about that, and yet there might be some things you can do. I'm really big on Kegel exercises.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Please.
Yeah, so Kegel, well, before Kegel, Dr. Kegel, there was in yoga, they call it Mula Bandha, which is or root lock is what they called it in Tantra. Like if you were urinating and you had to stop because the house is on fire and the baby's upstairs, there's muscles you could tighten that would stop the flow of urine. And women often learn to do Kegel exercises after giving birth. Mm-hmm. It's going to help their uterus to get back in shape and help them get back together to where they were. But the important thing is that both men and women could learn to do Kegel exercises. It's going to help with bladder control, because incontinence becomes an issue for elderly people. A lot of elderly people wear diapers, and I always like to say, well, I don't really like to say it, but no one is going to want to get into your diapers. So we want to try to avoid that situation. But by doing Kegels, where you're tightening the pubococcygeus muscle and relaxing, tightening, relax, tightening, relax. It's a very private exercise. You can do it while you're waiting for the red light or you're waiting for the elevator. You could be doing it right now for all we know. It's a very private exercise, but it's going to give men more ejaculatory control, so they don't ejaculate before their partner's satisfied, if that's their goal. It also, there's another aspect in Tantra where you learn, rather than being so goal-orientated on ejaculation, you learn to savor every kiss and every touch. Mm-hmm. Rather than we got to get to the goal. It's like fast food, fast cars, fast sex. Mm-hmm. But it's like, no, every kiss is precious. Every snuggle is precious. Kissing them in the neck, or, touching their lower back. So again, there's many ways that we can bolster our libido, and one is by learning to do Kegel exercises and keeping our reproductive organs in good health. Mm-hmm. That's super important, and learning what pleases us, and clear communication so that we can communicate with their partners. And again, sometimes it's wise to sandwich what we want to say, like, honey, I really love it when you rub my back before we make love. All right. Okay. And then you say, but I don't really like it when you, I don't know, I'm going to just use an example, stick your tongue in my ear. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. And then and I love it when we take a nap together after we've made love. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you sandwich the criticism between a couple of really positive things. And sometimes that makes it a little easier. And rather than, oh, well, I'll just go find somebody else who appreciates me and back off. It's like, I hear you. Thank you for telling me. So we want to encourage honesty in our relationship and clear communication, rather than taking things personally. Sometimes it's like, I know that a lot of people like that, or maybe all your other girlfriends or wives like that, but this is what I need. And so we have to be willing to let go of what the program was and say, my partner's trying to tell me what works for them,
Listen.
and I'm open to listening.
Yeah, listen. I think communication is so critical. I love to be at the table and I'll look at my wife and I say, I just did 50 kegels. And,
Yes.
you know, I do it, but I think it's so important, the pelvic floor needs to be strengthened, and I mean, I could do a whole show on kegels. I learned about it when my first wife was pregnant and we were in Lamaze classes, and I've practiced them ever since, and I just believe firmly that men and women should both be doing kegels.
Absolutely. And, not doing the things that undermine our health, like, be beautiful for your partner. Like, even if you're single, like, relish your beautiful wardrobe, your, being clean, being attractive. I have friends sometimes who, they'll run into someone who they always wanted to get in closer to, but they're in the health food store and they just left the gym and they're in their sweatpants and like, I gotta hide and run from them. So sometimes you just have to kind of, I have a feeling we're supposed to meet. I know we have to be more careful these days about just clandestine and, meeting people on the lam, because we just need to be more careful. But the idea, like, relish in your own sensuality and your own beauty. It's not something you need to save for when I'm in a relationship. I'll eat healthfully, or I'll make beautiful meals, or I'll wear my pretty clothes. Like, do it now. Love yourself.
Love
it really
yourself.
comes down to, if you don't love yourself, it's going to be really hard for someone else to give you the love that you need. So find ways to start there.
Yes. I think one of the most powerful aphrodisiacs is when a man turns to his woman and says, "You are so beautiful. I love it when you smile." It's so, it makes them feel so attractive, and they want to be with someone who makes them feel good. Whether it's a male or a female, when you tell them, "Oh, you smell so good," "Oh, I just love when finish the sentence. I just love when, and it's even with the relationship that's on the rocks, you can enhance it, you can make it repaired, you can bring so much life into it. It's like mouth to mouth for the spirit, just complimenting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that brings about more positive behavior. And sometimes when you're at a really difficult place in a relationship, something that worked for me for a very long time is we make a list of things that each of us could do to enhance the relationship. Like,
wow.
I would be so grateful if you would call me when you're not going to come home for dinner. I would be so grateful if you would, so to be really clear, rather than like building up resentment, because when we let resentment build up, it's almost like putting on a snowsuit and a scarf and a hat. It's hard to get intimate when we have had to armor ourselves with resentment. So, and again, sometimes we have to compliment the positive behavior. I'm so grateful. I see that you're eating healthier. You smell even better. I see that you're cutting back on smoking tobacco. You smell so much better to me. So sometimes we just have to praise the small steps to get more good behavior than kvetching about what still isn't perfect.
Yeah. Going back to that sandwiching topic, the one word I would remove from my vocabulary is the word "but." I love you in the morning, but because it takes everything that you just said away. And so I just want to throw that's a Dale Carnegie principle that I learned many years ago.
Okay, well, good one.
So yeah, exercises. There's so many things. Sizing differences. Every page you turn to, practicing safe sex. There's useful topics. I folded a few pages over here that were kind of note, and you talk about herbal dosages, herbal blends, herbal, maintaining sexual health. You go through the women's health, men's health. You talk about exactly what things need to be improved upon or how you can enhance them, and it makes it so user-friendly, I think.
Getting through menopause is a big deal. And Paul, I'm going to go out on a limb here right now. But something that I would like to see changed in the future, um, and I know this is a really sensitive topic, but circumcising little boys
Yeah.
is a trauma. It's a trauma to them. And we say, well, they don't really feel it, but of course they feel it.
Yep.
They feel it, and maybe they don't remember it, but it's an unnecessary trauma. And I think when we look at the disparity between the sexes right now, we need great healing. We really do. Many, many people, men and women, have been sexually assaulted, abused, molested. I mean, the list goes on.
Absolutely.
So I just think we don't want to make it harder. We do think it's an atrocity that little girls have their genitals mutilated in some other cultures. But it's really not necessary. If you want to be circumcised, it should be your choice, and do it when you're 18. Don't let that decision be made for you. The foreskin is a very protective mechanism, and men ideally should be able to produce some lubrication. So again, it's not like you can go back and change it now, but we can at least be future thinking about our children and grandchildren, about is that another AMA thing that really isn't necessary in our best interest. And I know that sometimes it's a religious thing, but there's a lot of things that used to be part of a religious tradition that we sometimes have to look at, like, stoning somebody for adultery. Like, okay, maybe maybe there's other ways we can go about it. So I said it, and I'm glad I did.
I have to agree with you. I was 3 years old when I got my circumcision, because my mom had two other boys and they were both circumcised, and she said, well, we better take Paul in, and I don't remember it mentally, I don't remember it consciously, but I know that trauma's deep in me. I know that little boys, because they didn't give him any kind of pain medication at all, and I don't know if they even do now. But I mean, it was just like they're just ripping skin right off of a little boy.
And it's a very sensitive part of the body, and we just, we want to heal, and little babies are so tender. There's studies that show little boys won't look their mothers in the eyes for a few days after being circumcised. It's like there's this betrayal of trust. So we need to question that. And I know in, the Jewish tradition, the boys get a wine-soaked cloth, which might help to deaden the pain, but there's the pain after. The effects of wine go away pretty quickly, yeah. We all know. So it's just something to change, and I think we need better sexual education, because I think a lot of times inappropriate things happen because we don't really know what's going on. So there's a lot of things that we really need to help harmonize and fix between the sexes right now, because there's been a lot of trust that's been breached, and I'm all in favor of how can we make it better so that we can be partners and be supportive no matter what in the world, that we help each other get through this life on this planet, and do it for the highest good.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad you talked about that, because it's always been kind of on the back of my mind about little male circumcision, and it's so unnecessary, and it does cause, I think, long-term subliminal harm to an individual, and I wonder how many men say, man, if I had my way, I would have never done it.
Well, it was also believed that it would decrease the sin of masturbation, because the men's genitals would dry out and be more exposed and rub against their clothes, so it would make them less sensitive. But that might also be one of the reasons why people choose things that are not really holy and sacred or appropriate, because they are not feeling the joys that they maybe could have felt. One of my friends who's a midwife says this is the top of your hand is like the circumcised lingam, or penis is the tantric word, lingam. It means wand of light. They're very handy to have in a dark room, a wand of light. and then if you turn your hand around and then touch your hand, this is uncircumcised. There's a lot more nerve sensitivity. So again, we just have to go on. A lot of us, we weren't breastfed or born at home or whatever. Like, we just have to move on and move into the future. But I'm really going for more harmony between the sexes, more peace, more protection of little children, and conscious decisions and healthy relationships.
Yes, yes. And I mean, we've talked about so many things from communication to exercises to herbs to food. Um, it's such a wide spectrum of things that we can do that when combined together can create such an atmosphere of safe of feeling of safety of peace in your heart, and it makes you a better lover. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. And it is a big deal. I mean, it's sex, but it can lead to babies. It can lead to, big things. Raising children. It doesn't just end when they start kindergarten. Like,
Yeah.
you're still going to lose sleep over them. And your grandchildren, it's like it's a big creative thing. And, how wonderful to be able to help in some small way to give people ideas that they can enhance sexuality, enhance their relationships, because it's almost like world peace begins in the bedroom.
Yeah.
A lot of frustrated people, like, my bomb's bigger than your bomb, my missiles are bigger than your missiles. So let's find a way to work through this beautiful planet and find ways to honor each other, honor the earth, honor all of the varieties of humans that are on this planet, and be grateful that we get to be here. And we're going to do our best no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And good relationships. I also love the quote, if you want to do something nice for your children, love your partner more.
Oh, man.
I mean, children thrive. It's like, oh yes, you can send your kids to private school and you can, buy them the newest version of the iPhone, but like if they grow up in a home where they see parents being kind and honorable to each other and cooperating, that's a great role model. And so many of us don't have that.
No.
But let's do our best.
Yeah. I mean, they see a toxic relationship even when it's nonverbal. They sense it. A child has that perception that they may not even verbalize it, but they do feel it. They sense it, and it affects them, and it affects their relationships. And so, I mean, what you're doing, the example you're setting, doesn't just affect your relationship, but it affects the relationship of your children, your offspring, who you want to have a healthy relationship in every area of their life.
It's true, and very often, as we all know, people go on to recreate the drama that they saw growing up. And don't we want better than that? Very often that's the first marriage. Oh, I married my mother or my father so I could heal that drama that I grew up with, and then hopefully it goes better the second time. But again, it's so important. Children notice even before they can talk. They notice and understand. And so it really is, if we're going to be blessed with the gift of children, for their sake as well as ours and the health of the planet, let's do our best.
Yes.
Because, like I said, world peace begins in the bedroom.
I love that. I think that makes perfect sense. Well, Brigitte, we've come down to the end of the hour. I knew it was going to go so fast again. It always does. Was there any closing thoughts or any parting thoughts that you would like to share with our listening audience?
I want people, please check out my website, BrigitteMars.com. I've got a lot of videos, recipes, remedies. I'm going to be doing a 7-part series with the SHIP network called Flora Pharmacy. If you can look up Flora Pharmacy course, and I'm really excited about that. But in general, I want to say you're worth it. Your relationship is worth it. If you don't have one, there's ideas. The fine art of flirting and finding a mate. You can't flirt at home. It's really just so beautiful to have a partner on the path and treat it like a treasure. And Paul, I'm so grateful to be on your show again. Thank you so much for spreading the good word to people all across the globe, because we can all do something.
Yes.
We might not be able to fix all the problems, but we can all do something, and we're counting on all of us.
Yes, and it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a unified force. Guys, you can find Brigitte's books in any bookstore. I went and got a second copy of this for a friend. The emotional, mental and emotional health. All of her books are available. You can find them on BrigitteMars.com. Please order a couple of copies of her books today. You will not be sorry. Guys, I always end every show with this comment. Everybody is looking for a hero. And if you can't find one, be one.
Be one.
Yes, and Brigitte, you've been a hero and you've been an inspiration and I mean, you've taught me so much, and just your words are so helpful and so relevant. I think to everybody, I don't care if you're in perfect health, I don't care if you're in waning health, guys, pick up a book. If you read one book a year, you've read more than 99% of the world's population. A person who won't read is no better than a person who can't read. You've been given that gift. Take advantage of it. Pick up a book and start reading. If you're thinking about writing a book, I'm telling you, it's not that hard. All it takes is page 1. Get your book. Guys, you've been watching the Weekend Boost. This is KUHS, The Stream. I am your host, Paul Lane. I just want to send a special shout out and a thank you to Mr. Henry Archuleta. Jefe, you make this all possible, and I'm so grateful for all that you do to support the community. Thank you. Guys, I love you. We will talk to you in 2 weeks. We're going to have another special guest, Aaron Doolittle, who is putting a book together on mushroom therapy. And you and I got to talk about that too, by the way, Brigitte.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
I'm talking, yes, well, blessings to you, Paul. Thank you, Henry.
Blessings. Yes, you have a wonderful day. We will talk soon.
Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Peace. Blessings to you.